Hey, everybody.
Greetings.
Welcome to Sexy Nerd Science, Season 6, Episode 1. Psych, we tricked you. Last time wasn't Season 6, Episode 1. Uh, or alternatively, today is December 39th, 2020.
Something like that.
It's like it.
So, tons of stuff coming down the pipeline through to you guys. If you guys aren't, what, Josh? What was that?
Forgot I needed to add something to the script.
Do it. We got tons of stuff. If you're not caught up with current events, you're in for a world of pain. Hopefully we can make it a little better for you though.
Which honestly you should be.
What?
Be caught up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Feeling a little better.
What'd you say?
I said, and feeling a little better.
Yeah.
So
Who wants to? So obviously we know everything that happened. Was it Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Who wants to kind of recap that?
I can.
Yeah.
Wednesday of this week.
See, I knew you were fucking there.
I know.
Thursday.
I don't know what it was. So Wednesday of this week, if you didn't know, it was January 6th. It was the day that Congress accepted the results for the 2020 presidential election, and
the
without a hitch, the end.
What?
Said it went off without a hitch.
Exactly.
The end.
Yeah. So they accepted the results from each state, and they said, okay, we accepted it. They did objections and whatnot. They were going pretty good. There was a large event of Trump supporters and people who thought the election was stolen. That was right before the event that happened at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock was the time that the event or the counting actually kind of started. And so this happened, I think about 11 or 12 was Trump had an event, I believe right outside of the White House. He was on the White House grounds. I can't remember, but it was on Pennsylvania Avenue. I think it was at the Eclipse, if you know where that's at. And he had a big event, and during the event, if you guys aren't aware, he pretty much instilled and started a riot right in front of the White House, and he told everybody to march to Congress. So everybody, being the people that they were, and the pretty much, I wouldn't even say the beliefs that they held, they did exactly what Trump told them to do, and they stormed down Pennsylvania Avenue, and pretty much took over the Capitol building, the U.S. Capitol building.
So that, I did not know that they were somewhere else prior to them going to the Capitol building.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that. To me, that makes it 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they were there kind of just in protest of, that's where they decided to rally.
Yeah, they were there for that, but it was more of, they weren't in front of the Capitol building. It's kind of I don't want to say it's a small area, but they were at the mall.
It's a couple city blocks.
Yeah.
Right.
So like they were all there to try and obviously do a protest. And I don't think, everyone thought it was going to go violent, but they thought it would be more just violence, not attack a specific Capitol building. I thought, at least. So they actually broke into the Capitol building during the event of counting the ballots. Both the vice president and all the senators, and because it was a joint session of Congress, both senators and representatives had to stay in place shelter, and they were evacuated as much as possible. The Trump supporters got into the building itself and pretty much were, I don't know if they destroyed a lot of it, but they did break some windows. They did break a lot of some stuff, but they were taking photos. There's tons of photos online. They were live streaming a lot of stuff.
Like, they made it into offices of different people, different Congress people.
Yep, they made it into Pelosi's office. They sat in the chair of the Senate chair. And I can't remember if it was Senate or House. Probably did both. I don't know.
Podium that was stolen, or at least like there's pictures of someone walking away with the podium.
So pretty much just chaos and rioting.
Flags that were removed and replaced with Trump flags on the inside.
There was
Wasn't one of the big things the Confederate flag was flown inside of the
It's carried. I don't think they
or-
flew it or like
I mean,
posted it on anything, but yeah.
it
Which is
was
the first time it's ever happened, by the way.
Yeah.
Like,
The
it never happened in the Civil War.
So during the event, obviously, the counting shut down. They did, I believe, one woman, part of the protest or part of the riot was killed, and I believe one police officer was killed. There might have been more.
3 other people were injured
Yeah.
during other stuff.
So the
and died.
one of the so it was
Yeah, the one woman was
of
shot.
One woman was shot. One of the protesters.
I saw that video on Twitter. Actually, it was not necessarily something that I wanted to see, but it just came up as I was looking through the video.
They took it down really quickly after. That was
Yeah.
like within like 2 minutes or 2 hours or some shit like that.
Someone reposted it.
But let me finish the whole thing, and then we'll start into specifics. So after they, people got shot, they have a Capitol Police, and they obviously were overrun by the amount of people that were there. They tried to protect the people that were inside. They tried to protect the senators and representatives that were in there and the people. Finally, the National Guard was called in, and this is something I learned after the fact, that Pence, the vice president, had to call the National Guard, not the president, which is ridiculous in itself. So Pence called in the National Guard. They came in, they cleared everybody out, and they pretty much dispersed everybody. And then obviously more protests and stuff happened into the evening. There's a curfew that happened at 6 p.m. No one followed that. Some people left, obviously, but pretty much the National Guard dispersed everybody as soon as they were called in. And anything that happened in the evening, I don't really recall. But as soon as about 8 o'clock, I think it was, Eastern time, rolled around, all this happened about 3, 4, 5-ish. As soon as 8 o'clock rolled around, everybody came back to the Capitol building. They restarted the count, and it finished at 4 a.m. So the Congress accepted the results from the Electoral College. There's no more debating. There's no more trying to figure out another loophole or something like that. It's pretty much done deal. There's no other things to do.
Joe Biden is confirmed as the...
Started setting up for the inauguration.
Yep.
So
Joe Biden is confirmed as the 46th president of these United States of America.
There's a fly that I want to bang.
Is it the mic? Is it the electronic fly?
Yeah.
Trying to land on your
Wants
forehead.
to bang a fly.
Trying to figure out my PIN number. But
6969.
So yeah, any comments, guys, on everything that I just said?
Well, so I know, just jumping back, the woman that was shot was one of the protesters, or some people are even going as far to say treasonous people. Was the initial person that was shot, and then I know one of the police officers died of the wounds that were received during the insurrection.
Blunt force trauma is what it was. They didn't know if it was a lead pipe or a fire extinguisher or something.
Yeah. So.
And then there was a guy who tased himself to death on accident. And then there was a woman who was trampled.
I remember, if I recall, there was 6 people who died total. So there might be
people with the cop, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So a total of 6 people died in it.
5 rioters got killed or died. One got killed. The rest died. Yeah, but I know one of the guys had a taser in his pocket, and as the crowd was being pushed, he ended up tasing himself until he had a heart attack and died.
Damn.
And then another lady. I'm not trying to laugh. I'm not making this into something it needs to be. She was wearing a "Don't Tread on Me" Tea Party T-shirt, and she got trampled to death. And
okay, there is a beautiful irony in that, right? I mean,
the irony is what I'm trying not to like. The fact that someone died is terrible, but The irony, I just can't get over that in my head. Like someone posted it like this has to be an article, like an Onion article, and I apparently it was not an Onion article.
Man. Well, and I mean there's so many countless videos of like people who had gotten pepper sprayed and stuff, and one of the ones
the
that I've been
person that spread the lie that onions help alleviate tear gas.
what?
So there was a bunch of people who showed up that were rubbing onions on their faces to make it so the tear gas didn't affect them.
Oh my god.
So
So
this is only showing. Oh, yeah. I was like, I'm only seeing 5 people died.
People with the cop.
Yeah, with the cop.
So one of the videos I saw was a lady who was upset because she got pepper sprayed, and they're like, "Why'd you get pepper sprayed?" And she was like, "Because we went into the Capitol building," and the guy was just kind of like,
Shit.
"Okay, well, were you supposed to be there?" She was like, "Well, no," and he was like, "Well, I mean."
Pretty much the same thing. That's the same kind of argument
he was
about.
He's like, "Why'd you go into the Capitol building?" And she's like, "It's the revolution."
And then there was one that, man, I keep forgetting this guy's name. I don't even know if I even want to say it, but this guy was saying that this was set up, and there's tons of people who are not here peacefully in MAGA hats, and they're not here with us, and you could hear all this, like you couldn't hear anything that was like anti like Trump or anti MAGA. It was all like he was like, listen, and he was like the chanting was like MAGA, MAGA, or whatever, they're Donald Trump or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and he was like, listen, like you could tell, and then he was like, this is a militant. Ah, man, he said something about this is a militant, leftist, globalist, uh, like it's just like all he's just using it like people just use these
all the most radical words.
Yeah, it's like this is a militant global, militant low
socialist, leftist,
yeah, he's
Marxist,
globalist. Oh man, I can't remember. I was gonna make a post about it today about like, hey, what does this mean? Because I looked up. You can look up all the words individually, and if you look up some of the words, like they're immediately counteracting each other.
There's anything that I don't like.
Socialist fascists.
But
those commie fascist bastards.
So it's really going nowhere quickly. I mean, to the point where it took all of 5 seconds for the Twitter sphere to renounce Pence because he went against the great leader.
Yeah.
And then now people are thinking that Donald Trump was deep faked into saying that he is chastising the people, his people or whatever.
Yeah, official word from his press secretary was that he regrets sending out the apology video that he sent out today.
Oh, I imagine he has
because
2 ways of thinking.
Hurt his base.
Yeah.
But I like seeing the reactions from like other people. I thought Stephen Colbert's reaction was really good. He posted last night, just before his nightly show. And I think he did a really good job of, like, for instance, that girl who's like, it's the revolution. He was like, oh, you're upset that you got pepper sprayed during a revolution. He's like, when most people have a failed revolution, they cut their fucking heads off. Like, seriously, you don't believe me? Go ask. Oh, wait, no, you can't, because they cut his fucking head off. And I was like, oh, Stephen Colbert. This is exactly what I needed. But there were a few politicians, Ted Cruz, one of them, who was really big on saying that there was voter fraud, that we need to do this, who was part of egging people on. So he was egging people on at around 3:00 p.m., which was after the White House or the Capitol building started getting people showing up to break in. Like, they weren't fully in then, but he was still kind of posting things about that.
Yep.
And then there's a senator from Missouri. senator from Ohio, that were both a senator from Missouri, I think it was tweeting or did a speech and was saying that that it was Antifa. Like all there's video evidence of and facial recognition technology that says these protesters were Antifa and that's who they were.
Give it to the police. The police are asking for people to, if you know anything
yeah.
about it, come forward.
FBI.com/Capitol.
let's get that facial recognition going.
FBI.com/tips/Capitol. I think the website is. I posted on my Facebook the other day. But yeah, the FBI wants tips, but like it's there's literally people. There was a state senator from West Virginia who like recorded himself in the Capitol building.
Yeah, then
and said his name.
Well, no, it was funny because I heard about that. He was sworn in for the next Congress, not the one that's currently, the lame duck technically session right now, but the one for
it was a West Virginia state Congress.
Yeah, but
he was like a state senator.
He's sworn in for the next one.
Yeah.
So he's technically hasn't taken office yet.
Yeah.
And he was pushing himself in, trying to be like here, and then obviously he's like, "Oh, you are an idiot. You broke the law." Yeah, this is just complete.
Every single person that they can track down faces some sort of charges for this.
Well, and so
federal charges.
They were even saying at one point that people that were there were actually renouncing that it was Antifa because they were trying to take credit for it. Like they were like, no, that wasn't.
Literally look at some of the people who we have images of who they were, and then literally look at the stuff they've been doing and supporting up until this point, because there's a huge paper trail.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not Antifa. Like they are in fact Trump supporters who are doing this. And yeah, I can't say not all Trump supporters, but the problem is the people who weren't doing this thing were enabling the ones who did. And I think that is the biggest problem that we have. That's my biggest take that I've really been struggling with the past couple years, is this misinformation and like the action. Like I've had so many people like get mad at me for being a social justice warrior and why are you trying to police what we say on the internet? No one takes these jokes seriously. The problem is like they do, like they totally take these things seriously, and then they go storm the fucking Capitol building and like people die because enough people take these things seriously. Like I understand people that I've fought with online, like you yourself might not think all these things, but you enable other people to think these things and they use you for support because they think you believe in those things. And it's harmful. It's harmful. And I'm actually the reactions from Facebook and Twitter removing Donald Trump from Facebook. Not only yesterday, they gave him a 12-hour ban yesterday, and then he came back and said something that violated their terms of service, basically, again, claiming that the election was, he by saying that he wasn't going to attend the inauguration, Twitter said that was terms of him saying that the election was not legitimate. And therefore they said, hey, you're off.
Yeah.
And they banned him from Twitter, and Facebook, he's banned indefinitely until at least after inauguration day, if not longer. It's what we need to do. We need to remove these people from this platform. And I know, like, so Parler, even this is why we're
hold on, stop.
Okay.
We're gonna move your other thing down, and we're gonna jump into that because I wanted to talk about that. I mean, you can head it. I don't care, but I want to talk about it. So we can.
You're putting another Parler.
What? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, but yeah. So like, I mean, we need to get these people off. We need to take away their pedestal to promote misinformation.
I agree with you 100% that we have gone to the point of past freedom of speech. It is inciting riots, and that's not covered under any laws of freedom of speech. It's just as soon as you start taking away platforms, it I'm like, I completely agree with you that Trump should not be on these and should be banned from them. I completely agree with you.
So
I'm just like
here's the
so
thing.
nervous when it goes down that rabbit hole.
So there's definitely, I mean, that's definitely a the problem with that is you have the service that we use for free with the only, I mean, obviously it's not free because we sell our data or our data gets sold, blah blah blah. So we're losing some sort of freedom, but we use these services. We don't pay for them. We don't pay for Facebook. We don't pay for Twitter. They have every right to do that. If Donald wants to spout some bullshit, he can go to donaldtrump.com and tweet, or do 140, 260 characters. What's a tweet now?
I don't know.
It's longer
Whatever.
than that now. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so he can go do 200 character excerpts and post it to donaldtrump.com all he wants. That's his prerogative. That's where freedom of speech comes in.
Some hosting
I get that
platforms that might not allow that.
I get that, Twitter and Facebook are technically privately owned, but they are in the realm of it's like, how can I say this? If you have something that everybody has, it is technically still private, but it's in the public domain, and they call it a public forum, and Twitter and Facebook have been public forums. It's kind of hard to say like, oh, this is property or this is a certain thing and this is online. I get that, but Facebook and Twitter are public forums.
Are you kind of saying like a soapbox? You can go to a soapbox and
kind of like if you go to for an example, like if you go to the metro system in a city, the metro system are privately owned, usually by a company that does it for profit. However, because they're public, they take usually public money, or they take in
a portion of taxes,
something like that, or they're used by the public, and they're not, you can't be, trespassed for doing stuff besides breaking the law. They are public. They're technically called public forums. You're allowed to, say stuff. They're allowed to call meetings there of some kind.
On that note, I would say, I mean, inciting a riot is breaking the law.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
So I think there's people, just with Twitter itself, there has been way more shitty things that he said on Twitter that maybe should have gotten him in some sort of ban
prior to this. I agree.
Prior to that, and they have, but at this point, it is to the point where it has now incited a riot. But
you shouldn't draw the line at riot.
Well,
yeah,
no,
I get that, but where you draw the line is it's like this. If I draw the line here and somebody does a step down below that, it's like, okay, well maybe that is too far too. The line keeps moving down, and eventually it'll be. Again, I'm saying this with a grain of salt, or I'm saying this with as a devil's advocate. Eventually, there'll be a spot where somebody who has a disagreement, whether it be pro or against a topic, if you're against something that the person who usually controls whatever we're talking about is for something, and you're against it, it could be considered as hindering free speech or hindering something that you disagree with.
Well, and there's definitely instances where speech is censored in a manner that's like Tasha the other day wanted to use a knife emoji and say "I'll cut you" as a joke on one of her posts, and they immediately flagged her for that. She couldn't post it. I mean, so there's definitely like obviously things like context aren't able to be seen through text and through social media and stuff.
No, I mean, I agree. I've been on Facebook, said some stuff, and had to go to court over it. So, I mean, I definitely 100% agree, understand that. Yeah, you didn't know that?
But,
yeah.
That's a topic for after.
That's a topic for another day. But I get the ramifications of saying stuff on the internet. What I'm trying to say is there's that line.
That standard. Like, and I know we're worried about the slippery slope of, if we set that bar too low, then they're going to start taking away more freedom than one. And I think that
But
there are enough reasonable people that would stop that from happening or just move platforms
I
if
thought
that
that
was the
a
case.
million different times during the Trump's presidency, and that didn't happen.
So there's not enough reasonable people to not overuse or overstep the line. Like we were able to post misinformation under the assumption that people weren't stupid enough to listen to it.
And they were.
So I
So the
think that
line
there.
needs to be drawn at we need to not be able to post misinformation. And if
So
we're found posting misinformation, it needs to be just as bad as having hashtag knife emoji.
yeah.
Like
So that's the thing is I think but previously the line was hate speech, right? I mean, at that point the line was hate speech, and there's a lot of people who get shit canned for, you know, saying anything derogatory to anybody. I mean, just on our stream here, Twitch won't allow you to say specific things we talked about a couple weeks ago. In a derogatory manner. So was a simp and whatever, as long as you're, I mean, obviously we can say it because we're talking about
Commentary.
the issue commentary, but if I called Josh a
stuff
simp,
I said last week about the whitest kids you know, like, oh man.
but like that's what I'm saying is, so like previously the line is hate speech, and at that point it did pretty well, but there are people who get farther up there, like or who have more influence, who I think that Josh, you're right. That line for those people, in my opinion, it is. I think it's fluid. There's different, you know. I mean, obviously, Joe Schmo, 600 Science podcast isn't going to have very much influence. We have 3 people watching us, and half of it is us. But fucking, you know, the president of the United States shouldn't be able to go on. I don't think. I think that the president having like any public office having a social deal is a bad idea. I really do.
I do not see a single time where Barack Obama having Twitter, who was the first president to have a Twitter, by the way, why a single time when Barack Obama misused his Twitter.
Yeah, because he's not
even Elon
imbecile.
Musk misused his Twitter. Like
but
Elon
Musk doesn't hold a public office.
Yeah, prior people held the office higher than themselves. And so whether or not they had an agenda as far as, you know, healthcare or military or any other things prior to that, that's what it was about. Politics. It was about how to, you know, utilize the funds or utilize the people in a way that made sense for the people. Now it was all about one person, and it was just about himself. It wasn't about the office. He said, "Screw the office." He said,
it was not even just about him. It was about pandering and spreading the information and the lies. Like we've literally since day one, when he's been talking about the fraudulent mail-in ballots, we knew that the longer we let someone keep talking about fraudulent mail-in ballots and not just mark them as like, oh, this is potentially harmful, we just need to remove that from people's eyes.
How do you remove that from people's eyes when it's on every news station, when it's the most important person, or I'm going to say most powerful person in the world, who has the most, you know, influence on everything in the world, literally everything in the world? How do you stop him from being able to say the stuff he says?
More people get access to that through Twitter. So in
Twitter
today's day and age,
Twitter
more
is an
people
echo chamber.
see that. Well, it's not only is it an echo chamber, your reach is, we know for a fact that TikTok, YouTube, all these different internet services that we use have larger reach to specific audiences better than any TV or radio or anything like that
I
we had
disagree with that.
before.
Because of the demographics they have, is that people got on Twitter, people got on social media, not Facebook usually, but people got on this for President Trump, to listen to him, to hear what he says.
So
parents were not spreading misinformation as much as they are right now before they were on the internet.
And
they
not only
did
that,
not have the ability to do it.
Oh, I get that.
The internet gave them the ability to do that. Facebook, Twitter gave our parents the platform that they needed. And I don't mean our parents as like we're talking, I mean like a generation of people that didn't have the means to do that.
Yeah.
Now they have the means to do that. And there was nobody stopping them. And now they can connect with that same larger audience that, again,
which
like
validates their
millennials.
point. I get that.
Yeah, if I wanted to sell something to millennials, I'm not going to put it on Fox News or CNN. I don't give a shit about that audience. I'm going to put it on TikTok. I'm going to put it on YouTube. I'm going to put it on Facebook and target that audience.
You're targeting
now you have
millennials
those
on
adults.
TikTok, and what was the other one you said that was weird?
TikTok is like the second most downloaded app of all of 2020. Like,
well, that probably because of the pandemic, but I would say prior to that, I don't think a lot of millennials had it.
I mean, I would say I would give it probably maybe a third to the pandemic, but TikTok was blowing up. I mean, if you look at it, month over month, they were doing like some very very large variable in step up in downloads month over month in the 12 months prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, especially after they changed from Musical.ly to TikTok, they jumped up quite a bit.
Huge advertising campaign on Facebook and Twitter, and had a bunch of
they even did a Snapchat ad campaign. I'm fairly certain. So we'll jump back real quick to or not jump back, but go. I mean, this is kind of on par. With the Twitter and everything. A lot of people who are in the on the Trump train, we'll call it whatever, have jumped a Facebook ship and gone because they don't like the misinformation banners that they get. They have jumped to the app called Parler, which Josh mentioned earlier, and just within the last 24 hours of the ban for Donald Trump's Twitter, Apple and Google, the Apple App Store and Google Play Store have both. Well, Google has stopped polling or stopped letting people download Parler, and Apple is threatening to. What's the contingency on that?
They were considering it. I don't know if they even were going to give a contingency. I think they were just kind of waiting to make up their mind on it, which they totally. I would think that Apple's a more liberal company than Google, anyways, and would. I mean, not to get political, but I mean,
I'm pretty sure that Apple just shut down Parler. How is that possible? See, I saw this. Apple threatens to ban Parler from App Store in a report. So,
yeah, which is crazy because, like, I mean, I just like, unfortunately, that's what. And again, we don't want Google and Apple, because this is like Dale said, this is a very slippery slope when someone makes an app that Google or Apple doesn't like, and then they're like, hey, we're just going to yank it from our store. Like, like that's potential for a lot of bad stuff, except the fact that, like, this is just so weird to say, like, we know that pulling Parler off isn't going to damage the world. Like, we're not silencing any rocket scientists or anybody that, like, doesn't deserve to be silenced.
The thing is their Parler pitched themselves as Twitter without rules, right? So if you don't have community, like the stores, the Apple, Google Play and Apple stores have terms of service, yada yada yada. If Parler doesn't have any rules, then that just in itself may violate the stores what's the word I'm looking for? The store's terms of service. I'm not sure how that actually plays out, but that's what I've been seeing.
Fortnite, violated terms of service with microtransactions and stuff like that, and wasn't giving money, like that. Like, there are terms of service for using those stores, and I think that's definitely true. But I don't necessarily think Parler was. I think they're citing the fact that Parler was being used to, like, incite violence and, like, plan for insurrections, which, if we look at the protests in China, they were trying to, they were using WeChat before, and they banned, communication of WeChat, or banned specific phrases on WeChat because people were coordinating. So then they were using their iPhone's ability to send messages wirelessly between each other without using a network, a handoff. So they were using handoff to send coded messages to each other to help organize these events, which I thought was a brilliant way to get around that. And I think that's kind of speaks to my argument against the slippery slope, is that if there's injustice being done and companies that are being run by the state are being used to silence people, there are smart enough people who will find a way around that to lead a real revolution.
No revolution is going to come.
But no, I mean, like, revolution as far as like the Hong Kong protests. I wish that there could be more done for that, because I think it's really rough what's happening in Hong Kong, and it's kind of being swept under the rug still. With once COVID happened, like everything, the protests in Hong Kong kind of just went away. I mean, they didn't go away; they never went away. And in fact, now China has a stronger foothold in Hong Kong than they ever did. But
so here's
the oppression, the people will fight back eventually.
Yeah. So, real quick, a little couple notes about Parler. As of June 2020, they had 2.8 million active users. November 2020, they had 10 million total users and 4 million active users. And then they actually put in here, and I know this Wikipedia, but it's somewhat relevant. That Apple informed Parler executives on January 8th that its mobile app would be removed from the App Store within 24 hours if Parler did not improve its moderation policy. So they did give them a contingency. Parler was removed from the Google Play Store on the same day. So, I mean, they have a point here in the Wikipedia that's about the moderation, and the first line is Parler describes itself as a free speech platform. Its founders proclaim that the service engages in minimal moderation and will not fact check posts. I mean, it's literally a breeding ground for misinformation. So, and I mean, as long as everybody's aware of that,
I think, yeah, I I agree. I think it's a breeding ground for misinformation. I think the next question is, after, Biden takes office, then now the Senate can make some hopefully good and lasting changes. Thanks, Josh. I think the next question is, how do we as a country move forward from the echo chamber of lies and echo chamber of all this misinformation?
so this is part of what I was going to, and it's very unfortunate, but this is 110% a truth, and I mean, obviously it's not a fact, but it's my opinion, yada, yada, yada. The
I
Trump,
can't say it's 100% of truth.
it is 100% a truth, and I'll tell you why. The Trump train, without you can take the banner off of the Trump train, and it will continue to roll at like a fucking speeding bullet until it crashes and burns. Those people will fucking not give up, even if they dump him. Those people will continue to I mean, it literally makes me worry about a civil war. Like,
We won't have a civil war.
well, I mean, I understand we won't have a civil war, but like,
well, there's a reason we won't have a civil war, and I'll tell you why. Every state isn't a red and blue state. Like, we are on the map, but if you think about it in terms of rural and urban, all cities
No.
within the area are always blue, that hold a lot of the resources, and all the urban areas who take a lot of the resources from the urban areas, usually are red. And because of that, because it's so diverse throughout the entire country, you'll never have, like, there's no, like, area where people can meet and become an army and kind of thing. So
I mean,
it's more going to be, small.
Texas is pretty central.
But even downtown, even the downtown areas are blue.
No, I
Texas
know.
is becoming the new Silicon Valley. Like Texas will be
Yeah.
the new California in the next 5 years.
5 years. Yep.
So
I'm sure of it. Like,
But yeah, so I was gonna post that today about that, but I didn't want to spoil it. The whole, I mean, the train has already left the station. There's, I mean, you can take Trump's name off of it. It don't matter. Those people are already on board and they're fucking rolling so fast.
because it's a larger problem than just having a figurehead who's steering people in the wrong direction.
No,
like we had an entire system built around allowing misinformation to spread. We have a system where we can allow those new, so if we do get rid of, take off the Trump flag from that train, a new one's just going to take its place,
I get that. I'm
because
saying
there's going to be something else. Like
I'm
need
saying
to
what's
fight
next.
I don't think that I see the problem is I don't think, or not the problem. I don't think that we're gonna have another figurehead that fills that spot. I think the issue is just gonna be we're going to have a lot of people uh who are sour about it, salty about it, who will fight. I mean, you could put any other Republican in that spot, but they're not going to be Trump.
No, and I mean,
the
it's
whole
not going
the
to be a
whole
Republican. Like it's going to be QAnon. It's going to be the Flat Earth Society. It's going to
see
be
there are
all
people
of
who
these.
are conservative who uh who I'm trying to think of how to say this.
Non-conservative or non-Trumpist conservatives.
Well, not even that. There are people who are conservatives who don't want, the whole point of Trump was that uh he wasn't the politician. So the people who want a politician in there who are conservatives but want a politician in the spot versus a non-government person.
I think Trump could have ran as a Democrat, and if we didn't have a candidate to support that, he probably still could have won. Only because it had nothing to do with the political party of Trump as much as it did with just getting people to believe whatever was coming out of his mouth the easiest.
Well,
There's
I'd say.
people on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, that are and I hate to say it, incapable of skepticism. They think that they are good skeptics, but they don't know when to stop being skeptical. They have no idea of what necessary or sufficient conditions are.
That's just a conspiracy theorist, or not even theorist. Somebody who believes in conspiracies.
That's one of the side effects of it. But the people who pander misinformation or who play devil's advocate,
those are the people who are doing it for money.
Not always. We're not. We've played devil's advocate a few times in this conversation, and we're not doing it for money.
That's because we have different viewpoints from not just, like I said, if obviously the Republican Party didn't go the way it has been for the past 4 years, it could have been, I could have voted for a Republican in the previous time. If they didn't, they are a party right now who, because we have this two-party system, if you're not this, you're this. If you're not this, you're this. You can't be in the middle. You can't be an independent. You can't be a libertarian. Whatever you used to call it back, 5-6 years ago, those are gone. It's either Trump or not Trump. And that's how it is right now. And that'll fade, hopefully during the Biden presidency. And if it fades a lot, that's what my initial question was. How do we get past what this was? We still had people that were racist. We still had people that were waving the Confederate flag for years. We had people who thought Fox News was couldn't do anything wrong, and now everything's broken around it. The Republican Party is broken as a party. No one wants to stand by them. That's anybody outside of Washington. The People don't want to. The people that were part of the Republican Party don't want to stand by them. The people that were part of the Democratic Party don't want to stand by them. What happens to the Republican Party? Does it form into a separate Trump party or something to do with, in that way of thinking, but have a separate GOP party that's more about conservatives and the budget and more about the ideals of what conservative meant to be? How does that happen? That could be a way. It could split into a 3-party system. Well, I like that. I don't like the fucking, one of those parties.
So I mean, that's definitely, like I said, that's kind of where I was at with the Trump train rolls on is we will have it's gonna be like Josh said, QAnon or whatever, but it's gonna be end up being like, in my opinion, if it's not an actual politician, somebody who's a career politician who comes out from Kanye West, for all I can fucking care about, which he's in the news for some crazy stuff, but we'll
we haven't talked about him in a month. What do you expect?
But like I said, if it's not a career politician, there's going to be a lot of those people who identify as conservative or Republican that will not follow that person because of how Trump I mean, they voted for Trump in his initial campaign because of the way he campaigned. There's a lot of things that he's like, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that, and for a lot of conservatives, it seemed good. I mean, and not like taking his side or anything, but it's like, okay, what was it? Drain the swamp? Is that what the whole campaign was? Or
that was the first one. I don't know about the second one.
Just needed to pander to whoever.
Yeah,
and I get what you're
taxes,
saying, Drew.
Let's raise taxes. Let's do all this stuff. Like, it was literally
whoever
he
was
would say whatever he wanted to pander to his audience. That's all. Yeah. That's all that Trump train, and we'll call it the Trump train, needs, is someone to pander to their beliefs, to unite them all together again, and then it's back.
I disagree with this. I disagree with it completely. And the reason is because after the election, there was a poll taken with how many people believed that the election was stolen. 89% of the people who voted for Trump, again, this could be exaggerated a little bit or whatnot, but 89% of the people who voted for Trump believed the election was stolen. They believed word for word that was coming from his mouth. So 11% of the 75 million people who voted for him believed that it wasn't stolen. And let's say over time, after everything has been certified, after everything has been done, that number has decreased to maybe 70%. That is 70% of 75 million people who will believe anything that the president says. No matter what. Doesn't matter what it is.
Doesn't need to be the president, though.
He's going to do rallies after he's out of office. Guaranteed.
That's why he needs to get impeached.
Guaranteed.
That's I mean, the nice thing about having him impeached or jailed, like, I mean, I'd be fine if he spends the rest of his life in jail for treason. Like, that's cool, too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think,
wait, is impeachment still on the table?
Technically,
yeah. Okay. They could impeach, and then so long as the trial in the Senate starts before Inauguration Day, he can actually even be continued to be tried, even though he's no longer the sitting president.
Yeah,
so long as he gets impeached in the House before Inauguration Day.
Yeah. The person who's leading that, by the way,
if they wait till after Inauguration Day to impeach him in the Senate, it's a 50-50 split with a Democratic majority, and they could actually convict at that point in time. Yeah. So there's probably going to be some political strategy going on where they impeach as soon as possible, hold the paper like they did last time until just before Inauguration Day, then get things started in the Senate, and then once things are started in the Senate, then they finish it off when they have
I don't think it'll go that far. I think they'll do articles of impeachment in the House before the 20th. They won't do anything in the Senate because there's nothing you can do at that point. Anything that happens after that, he can get articles of impeachment drawn. He can be impeached, but then the sentencing phase, the part that the Senate does, I don't think anything will come from that. The reason I say that, only 11 days. So they have to do that. However, I did want to say...
They don't have to. They don't have to get it done in 11 days, by the way.
Oh, you're saying that as long as they start the articles before?
As long as he's impeached before Inauguration Day, they can start the trial for him whenever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would have to take 11 days for him to be impeached. And then once the trial starts after that, they would have to go to the Senate. Once the House
11 days to get impeached?
Yeah, that would have to.
It took 8 days for them to draw up paperwork and impeach the president last time. 8 days.
I understand
And
that,
how
but
did
it was a long time coming before that, and they waited a long time before they started the thing. This is like 2-3 days after everything happened for the reasons they did it.
They've already got the articles of impeachment written by
I'm not
Ilhan
saying it won't
Omar.
happen. I'm saying the sentencing
Like,
phase won't happen.
yeah. Well, what I think what they would do is here's what they're gonna wait. So Nancy Pelosi's gonna sit on handing the paperwork over to the Senate, just like she did before, because that's what she did before. She waited on sending it over, and she sent. They'll send it over just before Inauguration Day. Either the Senate's gonna have a quick, vote right now. Is he guilty? Here's the majority. No, he's not. Done. Or they're going to start deliberating. If they choose to deliberate and it lasts longer than the time period they're given, then it'll roll over into the next Senate, and then the next Senate will be the ones who have to decide that.
Even if that was the case, what things can Congress do, or for the Senate can do for articles of impeachment?
He's found guilty of treason. Not only will he face criminal charges for treason, which can be death or life imprisonment, even if he's, suspicion of treason, like he's at least by being impeached completely through the Senate, he's no longer eligible to run for president again.
Yeah.
Whereas if we kick him out with Article 25 or he resigns on his own right now, he's still eligible to run in 4 years. And then exactly like you're saying,
why would he not be able to run if he was just impeached?
If you're impeached, you can't. It's a
no. He's already been impeached.
No, he's been acquitted. The Senate acquitted that impeachment.
No, there's two different things. There's an impeachment, and then there's a sentencing phase after the impeachment.
Yeah.
And the sentencing phase is the part we're talking about. The impeachment, he's still impeached. Bill Clinton was still impeached. He was impeached, but he wasn't sentenced to anything. There was no sentencing phase of it. And so that's what I'm talking about, is that sentencing phase. Even if we were to impeach him in the House prior to the 20th, it goes through and they give it to the Senate, they start it, or they wait until the new one, whatever they want to do. What's the maximum they can do? What is the maximum sentence or the minimum sentence or anything that they could do if it's treason? Because if it's full treason, then yeah, they could probably jail him. But is one of the rules of impeachment they can't run again? No, because he ran this time and he was impeached for the Russian thing.
Well, because he wasn't. I think because he wasn't sentenced, right?
No, he wasn't sentenced. He was technically, saying like, oh, we don't think he did anything, so we're not going to give him anything. But he was technically still impeached.
So if removed by impeachment, Congress does have the constitutional authority to disqualify that person from future office. However, there have been occasions when Congress has decided not to disqualify someone for future office. And then sources: Article 1, Section 3, U.S. Constitution, 25th Amendment, U.S. Constitution, U.S. Senate webpage, and a couple professors.
So he has to be removed for them to decide whether or not they want to disqualify him for future elections.
So yeah, Congress, as part of their charges, can say
the Senate only.
Okay, hold on.
The entire Congress.
This is within 3 hours.
Congress writes up the charges.
House does.
Okay.
Yes.
Just House. Just the House does the articles of impeachment.
Okay, yes. Real quick. This came out 3 hours ago. Do we trust the New York Times?
Sure.
Okay. Democrats laid the groundwork on Friday for impeaching President Trump a second time as Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California threatened to bring him up on formal charges if he did not resign immediately over his role in inciting a violent mob attack on Capitol this week.
Talk a little louder, sir.
The threat was part of an all-out effort by furious Democrats backed by a handful of Republicans to pressure Mr. Trump to leave office in disgrace after the hours-long siege by his supporters on Wednesday in Capitol Hill, although he has only 12 days left in the White House. Ms. Pelosi and other top Democrat leaders continue to press Vice President Mike Pence and the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment to wrest power from Mr. Trump. Though Mr. Pence was said to be against it, the Speaker urged Republican lawmakers to pressure the president to resign immediately, and she took to unusual steps of calling General Mark A. Miley, the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, to discuss how to limit Mr. Trump's access to the nation's nuclear codes, and then publicized it. This is, quote, if the president does not leave office immediately and willingly, the Congress We'll proceed with our actions, Ms. Pelosi wrote in a letter to colleagues. At least one Republican Senator, Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, followed Mrs. Pelosi's lead and told the Anchorage Daily News that she was considering leaving the Republican Party altogether because of Mr. Trump. I want him out, she said. He has caused enough damage. There's a couple more bits, but federal law enforcement officials announced charges against at least 13 people in connection with the storming of the Capitol. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the recap of what happened.
The biggest part of a takeaway is I don't think unless the Senate wants to decide just based on his actions that he is no longer fit to run for president, which I think that's what they could do. They can do anything at that point. They would have to the House would have to write up articles of impeachment. They would have to send it to the Senate, and they would agree upon it. And once they do it for whatever reason they want to, high crimes and treason, that's definitely on the list. If he's found treasonous, he can be found treasonous, and the Senate can just say, you know what, that's good. We're going to vote on it right now, based on the amount of senators that are currently against and want him out. Some of them are from Nebraska. Some of them are from, we're pro-Trump people. It's possible that they could remove him for office or do it. I don't think there's enough time between the 11 days from when they want to write the articles for next Monday. Let's say next Monday they start everything, right? In the House, they vote for it. They take maybe the whole week of next week, and then the following week, it's your limited amount of time. I don't think it can happen.
Like, I mean, can't he? I guess so. What you're saying is it has to be settled before he's out. Is that what you're saying, basically?
No, they could go through like what Josh was saying, that after the new Senate takes a hold, they could vote on it. And let's say, I don't think it would happen, all the Republicans voted to keep him, and all the Democrats voted not to, even though there's 2 independents. But that point is, if that's the case, and it was to remove him or to whatever, what does the Senate have the power to do? Do they have the power to jail him? Do they have the power to just say he can't run anymore? Do they have the power to say he can't be removed from office if it's after the fact? So at what stage can the Senate do anything? That's my question, pretty much. Is that why even go that?
I send you this link. I've literally got the articles of impeachment written by Ilhan Omar for this resolution for Congress. It's 4 pages long.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just don't know how to share it.
Just link it.
I guess I could share my screen.
No, or you can do that. Yeah.
Well, I'm just. Is there a way to Control F for?
Can you just copy the link and put it in the?
It's the last section, like literally the last line 15 through 18. Wherefore Donald John Trump by such conduct warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. So the last.
What kind of resolution it is?
It is a House resolution impeaching Donald J. Trump of the United States for high crimes and misdemeanors.
So it's definitely a House resolution. Once they vote to impeach, he will be impeached. That is literally just a title.
As of January 7th, 2020 at 8:07 a.m.
Yep,
and it's on Ilhan Omar's website. That's where I got it.
Yep. So looks like Colts for Life posted, prior to treason, what qualified does anyone have to decide if somebody is unfit to run for president? Honest question. How is it not an opinion? No, it is an opinion. I think that's a valid point. It is an opinion based on the what the people of Congress think. That's what they're designed to do. These articles were written into the Constitution exactly for this purpose, for checks and balances. Their job is to decide that he is unfit. And so the articles of impeachment say, we think that the House is saying, the House of Representatives is saying he's unfit, we're impeaching him. The second stage is the Senate, which they decide what the articles of impeachment's sentence, and that's the best way to describe it. You have the 2 parts of the trial. You have did he do it or not, yes or no, and then you have the sentencing, which is the Senate. The sentencing, he can be sentenced for nothing. He can say, we vote for that he shouldn't be sentenced. He should not be removed. or whatever that thing is.
These articles are citing the January 2nd telephone call to the Georgia Secretary of State, where the president violated his constitutional duty to take care that the laws of the United States be faithfully executed.
So because he was trying to find votes.
Yeah. And then Article 2.
So all they have to do is add.
Talks about January 6th, President Trump encouraged individuals to travel to Washington, District of Columbia, with the sole purpose of inciting violence and obstructing Congress, engage in its constitutional mandate, legislative business of clarifying the Electoral College results. He incited a crowd of supporters in Washington, D.C. to violently attack the United States Capitol while both chambers of Congress were in session. And then they even give a couple quotes in here from Donald Trump. In all of this, Donald Trump has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as president and subversive of the constitutional government, to the great prejudice of the cause of law and justice and the manifest injury of the people of the United States. So that's why they're saying he's disqualified based off of those two articles, at least cited in this articles of impeachment.
Yep. Those were on on the news thing.
I think part of Dale's question is where is the limit to the Senate's power? Like, can they put him in jail? I think is part of your question, right?
Because by definition, they can hold people in contempt and they can put them in jail.
I think technically, if they find him guilty of treason, they could possibly sentence him.
Treason. So he would have to go through a separate trial to be jailed for that, though, right?
No.
I mean,
anything that the Senate decides, they can do. Any other prior laws that we have in this world is irrelevant. Anything. Because whatever the presidents do, we have a law, and I think it's probably Article 1. It's the protection of the king or something like that. Pretty much it means that
Article 1, the Constitution.
He can't be jailed for any crime that he does during this, even treason. But that's why we have the checks and balances for the Congress. They get to decide. It's their opinion. And Colt for Life is talking about, we elected these people to do that. And that's exactly how it was framework to design. Because we can't be, we're a republic, how Josh talks about quite oftenly. It's not a specific one-to-one democracy. It's that we have representatives who try to hold our opinion based on our local area in some sort of like reverence to whatever they're voting on. Because they have more information than we do every step of the process, not just for the details, because obviously the news try does our best, but who follows every single detail, who read the report, Mueller report, all those years, those 400 pages. You know what the people we voted for did. Maybe not all of them. Maybe they tried to do some stuff when not.
For staffers,
the staffers probably read it.
Them
I understand that's the
they
thing
needed.
Exactly, but they have a process.
But we trusted them to get that done.
We did.
We elected these officials.
Yep.
Under the understanding that we trust them to be competent electors to represent our virtues.
Yeah.
And when they don't represent our virtues, that's when we get upset and write letters, which I did to both my senators
or vote about
stuff last week.
Yeah.
Or we vote them out.
Yeah.
Like that's the part of a republic or representative democracy.
Things in the world have been moving so fast for the republic or for the Trump presidency. Things just obviously with Twitter, he'll say something on Twitter, and then the armed forces will be like, we didn't get an official yes or no, so we're not going to do that. He'll say something on.
Finds out people that are fired by Donald Trump before the people.
I fired him. I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't get a termination level. I didn't get a talking to or whatever.
It's in the mail. Sorry.
It's in the mail. We'll send it to you in the mail. It's all these things that because it's a new world where we didn't have this process of checks and balance steps. People are just trying to grab onto anything that they're used to, and right now the only thing that people have in their bag of tricks and their in their gun is the impeachment thing. But I don't think it'll come to anything. I don't think he'll be jailed. I think at the very most, the top thing that he could be due for is disqualified for running for president. And I don't think that'll even come. I think he'll be impeached. I think that'll be the maximum he does. He'll be impeached for this riot stuff, not even for the phone call. They might add it as two things like they did for the previous thing, but it'll definitely be for the riot thing.
Well, can't they add the previous impeachment as like he was already impeached once before, like he already did some shady shit in the past?
No, because he was acquitted of those crimes.
He wasn't acquitted
in the Senate.
He wasn't acquitted.
Yes, he was.
There are two different things, Josh. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He was not acquitted. It is completely separate. He's still, like, Bill Clinton still has articles of impeachment against him, and they're written there. But he completed his term. The Senate said no.
That doesn't.
No vote.
Yeah, acquitment means that he was not charged with the charges in the impeachment. The act of being impeached, he was okay. He wasn't convicted of what he was charged with in the articles of impeachment. He was acquitted on those charges.
That's why it's kind of hard to
be retried for those charges again because he was legally acquitted.
That's why it's kind of hard to link it to what we know as the court system. You know how because it's not 1-to-1 ratio. It's not a
totally is.
It's not though. That's what I'm trying to say.
The House is charging. The House is acting like a police officer does when they charge you with a crime. The Senate acts as the judiciary. They actually judge you for the crime.
But
I was convicted of theft. I was also sentenced and charged with theft officially after I talked to a judge.
All that stuff is the impeachment. You were convicted of your crime. You were charged on a separate point, and that is what the Senate does. They just do the charges, and that is how it's supposed to look at.
I was charged,
but whether or not it's one way or the other, I don't think it'll lead to anything. I think we should move on because we are quite long already.
Yeah.
Do we even have that much? But I guess we do have some more.
Yeah. Well, okay, so
but thank you everybody for listening to my bullshit.
Yeah. Josh, you want to do your thing, and then I'll do the last couple deals here.
Yeah. So while I will say that this week wasn't also bad, Star Wars: The Old Republic, the first anything that we're getting about Star Wars, not the Old Republic, the High Republic, this new phase in Star Wars that's going to be coming out, movies, TV shows, books. The books started coming out. So this is the first look into the High Republic that we've had. So I started reading Star Wars: The High Republic, which is actually a pretty good book. There's a young adult novel that I downloaded and the actual novel that they put out. And so far it's pretty interesting. I'm not all the way through the book. I'm not spoiling anything, but there's these mysterious light speed or near light speed objects crashing into this solar system, and they're trying to evacuate it. And it just so happens that there were hundreds of Jedi that happened to be in the area at the time that were able to help evacuate the planets and the star systems and stuff like that. There's a Wookiee Jedi, which is pretty sweet. There's a couple Twi'lek Jedis. The Wookiee Jedi has a cross saber, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Yeah, listening to Shriwook on Audible is really weird. Because Mark Thompson tries his best to he's the guy reading the book, tries his best to do Shriwook, but it's really weird sounding.
Yeah.
It just sounds like he's yelling. Yeah, I mean, so far so good. I'm about 3 hours into a 13-hour book. So there's probably plenty more to happen. They did mention Yoda. So Yoda is alive in the High Republic, and he's a Jedi Master.
So in this area, where does that take place in the main timeline? About
1,000 years before the episode 1.
Okay, so it's prequel based.
So he's about 300, 400 years old, I think, at the time. Yoda's still super duper old. But and they even were even Jedi Master Yoda couldn't do this. And I was like, oh man, he's in his prime right now.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. That's all they mentioned to him. But I'm like,
we don't know. This is all new stuff.
Yeah.
So you guys can
we talked about the phases of the Marvel universe. This is the phase of Disney Star Wars right now. And I'm just I'm so excited.
It's crazy. I mean, how far back have they elaborated prior to this then? I mean,
So we know the Old Republic exists. We don't know very many details from the Old Republic. We know the Sith rule of 2, which is Darth Bane. And we know Darth Bane exists from Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And it was made canon. But that's about all we've got from the Old Republic. So anything that was canon because of Knights of the Old Republic is no longer canon, which is unfortunate because some of that was beautifully done.
Yeah.
But so they could still technically go all the way back to the Old Republic. There's talks of them trying to retcon in the Old Republic by going back. So they're going back to the High Republic to help retcon the disconnect between the Old Republic and the current Republic.
New
Old
Republic?
Republic and the Republic, not to be confused with the New Republic from the sequel trilogy.
Okay. So if you guys want to check that out, you guys can use our link.
We don't still have an Audible link.
Well, maybe we should get an Audible link for 2021. Let's try
We
it.
tried and never got anything from it, and I know for a fact like 4
Hey,
or 5 people who signed
hey,
up with it.
listen, people are, Josh, that was your fault. You fucked that up. We gotta fix it. We're gonna get back to that. Sexy Nerd Science / Audible. So we're doing something here. Hopefully, I mean, like I said, COVID pending. It looks like it's still going on in the Omaha area. Kanpai Con is happening at the Cocoa Keys Hotel in Omaha, February 7th through 9th. Pop-up lockers will be there, so you guys can come out and support Jaboy. I don't know if Josh will be there. He might be there or whatever, but we're gonna request you a mask up, and we'll have plenty of stuff to clean the lockers and everything for that. Also, I will probably not be COVID positive at all because I have received the second dose of my COVID vaccine. And I put COVID vaccine part due in here because it literally made me shit my brains out. So I had 1 day of like bad side effects just from the vaccine, and it wasn't actually that bad. I didn't know I could take medicine. Like they were like, "Oh yeah, you can take medicine." And I was popped some Tylenol and I was fine by the afternoon. So less than 24 hours of that. Not too terrible, but Dale, you gonna get the vaccine?
I will get it if I can get access to it.
Nice.
But I don't
Mine
think
is through a study, and it's not Pfizer or Moderna. It's actually Medicago, and so they're new, or they're not new, but it's a new vaccine that is being tried for people 18 to 65 or something like that. So this one will not be something that they have tested on people younger than 18, but it's one of those. It's part. What?
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm trying to do a recaptcha, and it says select all the squares that contain a bicycle, and there's literally a person on a trike. Do you think I should select it anyways?
Yeah, probably.
Because it thinks the tricycle is a bicycle?
Yes.
So is it a motorized tricycle?
No, it's like a rickshaw trike.
Okay. Yes, you do that. I had one the other day that they didn't want. They said bicycle and it was a motorcycle, and so I just didn't click anything, and it got me through.
Making sure.
But yeah, so I suggest everybody get the vaccine. Like I said, first dose didn't really do me in at all, and the second dose did. But knowing that what I know now, that you can treat it with regular over-the-counter medicine, I probably if I would have taken it, before I went to bed, probably would have been fine. But like I said, being in the study, I didn't know if I was allowed to or not. So, speaking of, before it's midnight, I have to do my diary.
Diary.
Yeah, I have to keep a phone diary of my current symptoms and everything.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
Anybody else got any other news? Or?
No, I think that kind of wraps us up for everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite wrap us up.
Yeah, two
all
things
the way.
I want to say. I've been playing a game called Scrap Mechanic. I was thinking about streaming that, but I ended up stopping the game altogether because there was no point to it. I was thinking, there's no point to a video game, Dale? Of course there's not. But what I'm saying is there's no end game. It was a very broad game. It has tons of stuff it could do. A lot of building cars, building like stuff. I thought it was really cool. It's like Minecraft, but it's not. Point is though, check it out. Pretty cool. It was like $13-20. I can't remember how much it was. Definitely been playing that a lot. Second thing, I was wrong what I just said about the impeachment stuff, and I wanted to clarify that before we got off. Josh was correct. It looks like the House only does the charges of the crimes, where the Senate is the full trial, and they do have the ability to acquit and convict. I was misinformed with that information prior, but I did do a little bit of research because there was some stuff that I was like, am I correct? So I did look that stuff up. We will have those articles for you linked either in the YouTube thing when we post this, or in, if we post this to Project Nerd, not sure, we'll have it down there, and SoundCloud, because this will be the first one we put back on the SoundCloud, right, Josh?
Yes.
Yeah, so this will be, so check the description for all the links for the stuff we talked about today.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Let us know what
it's
you guys.
Not done yet. No,
Oh,
not
okay.
done yet.
Okay.
Not done yet. Drew, I think you just got a notification on Facebook.
Yeah. Yuck.
So I've been doing some research the past couple of days, and working together with a local friend of ours. Well, not a local friend with us, a friend of ours who you might know. His name rhymes with Schmiggy, and operates Project Nerd. And there's been some things going on in the Drew's household
You guys.
that we wanted to do something about. And so for those of you guys who don't know, like we talked about it a bunch on the podcast about how this has affected Drew's business, and how, you know, he decided to take this huge risk pre-COVID to, you know, essentially leave cushy jobs, him and his wife both, and take this huge leap of starting their own business, and a business that is focused around nerds and nerd culture and conventions and all the things we love and wished we got out of 2020. And because of the things that happened in 2020, Drew kind of got shit on. And there's been a lot of stuff that kind of didn't go the way that his family's been needing it to go. Unfortunately, Tasha had reached out to unemployment, like so many of us did, myself including, got unemployment during coronavirus, and got paid out a lot of money that I needed to help to survive. And now, months later, after, you know, having taken that money a long time ago and stopped getting it, and Drew worked his butt off. I don't think I have any friends who work more hours in a week than Drew Giroux does. And now they owe $6,000 back for unemployment that they weren't supposed to take. They definitely needed it. All the taxpayers that I've asked say they deserved that $6,000, but according to the unemployment office and their old employer, they did not deserve that $6,000. So we have put together a GoFundMe with a measly goal of $6,500. That is because there's fees on the GoFundMe. I will relinquish full withdrawal control to Drew and Tasha for this, but this money would be used to help them pay off that debt and just stay afloat while they're doing that. We don't know if they're going to garnish wages. We don't know if they're going to take away tax returns. We don't know if they're going to stop giving them the next stimulus checks. We don't know. So to help relieve some of this uncertainty, Project Nerd, Sex Nerd Science, Iggy, myself have been working together to help the Drews get back on their feet. So if you want to, we'll have the link posted on Sex Nerd Science. I'm sure we'll have a link posted on all our individual Facebook pages. Actually, we can pin things on Sex Nerd Science, so I think we'll pin it to the top of Sex Nerd Science there. We'll start seeing some things on Project Nerd coming out with it as well here in the next couple days. The goal is $6,500, and I know it sounds like a lot to ask for some people because everybody's hurting right now. But if you got your $600 stimulus, and you said, hey, I'm doing okay financially. If we could get 100 people to just donate $65, slightly over 10%. 100 people is all we'd need, and this GoFundMe's funded. And then we'll shut it down. But I know we have 100 friends. I know we can get this done. I know we're all essentially just given free money. Some of us need it, some of us don't. So give what you can, and help, the hardest working people that I know stay afloat.
Yeah. Thanks. I didn't. Your text this morning made me. I was like, that ain't happening. So I was like, I'm not setting one of those up.
There were some possible problems with me setting up a GoFundMe that I had to get some permission for beforehand. And even then, I still haven't gotten an official word back on it, which is why I'm being very clear that all the money from this GoFundMe is going to only be in Drew Drew's possession and not mine at all. And not Iggy's.
Yeah, I was like thinking that Kanpai Con was gonna be hopefully paying a big chunk of that, but also didn't do so well at that one last year. So being it's the first event in the area that comes back, though, I don't know.
Might be good.
Maybe everyone, yeah.
But well, thank you. I didn't expect that. I was really pissy that you weren't keeping us on. I was like, I want to play a game with Dale.
To bed.
No, I want to play a game with Dale.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
but I mean,
you guys play your games.
Still great. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to donate, that's fine. Like, we're not going to hold it against anybody. It could be completely anonymous. But it was just something that, again, I've struggled this time, but I've been semi-financially stable. Not to the point, to the point where they're not going to like take my car, or I'm not going to be able to feed myself, or I'm going to get kicked out of my house because obviously, thanks mom and dad.
Yeah, I mean that's the only reason we still have a roof over our heads, and
that can't be easy either, with the fact that
not when half of the burden was supposed to be ours. So
yeah, so it's one of those things where I just like I said, I see this happen to people that I care and love about, and I see this happen to millions, literally millions of people in the United States right now, and I wish I could help every single one of them, but I know I can help and make a difference in my friend's life. So that's why I would say I would want to do this, and I just encourage anybody else who feels the same way to donate as well. So we'll make more videos and stuff like that as time goes on. This was supposed to be just a spontaneous, I surprised Drew with a GoFundMe. So
shit.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it.
Cool.
So I turned my volume up on my phone so I could hear my voice talking to me. So thank you guys for joining us.
I was gonna say, on that note, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Anybody on Twitch, anybody that listens after the fact. We really we're really I can say we've been doing this for the last 5 weeks. Really happy to be doing this again. Especially, I mean, honestly, we probably should have capitalized on everybody being home for COVID, but 110%, there was I had no time because of just being out of I mean, being on the road was one thing, but and driving or whatever, and not being able to do it, which was the first month and a half of 2020. But having to grind and literally work. I mean, I was cleaning carpets in COVID-ridden places, unbeknownst to me. Apparently, that's where DJ's dugout got. That's why I had to clean DJ's dugout carpets, because apparently they got COVID, and the guy didn't tell me. So, but yeah, But I'm glad to be back, and I hope you guys are too. So
yeah.
Okay. Take care of our family.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and stick around after the show for some posts, possibly post content, gaming or whatnot, and we'll talk to you guys later.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Sexy Nerd Science Season 5.
Make sure to like us and subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Don't forget to check out our merch on Teespring and support us on Project Nerd Patreon at patreon.com/projectnerd.